Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. Thank you very much for taking a little bit of your time and spending it here with us on NACTV. I'm Eoin Devereux with the Banner Press, welcoming you almost as always. Joined this week by owner, operator, publisher of the Banner Press, Ken Waddell. Ken, good to have you in the seat today.
Yeah, ready to go, ready to rumble here.
So. Yeah, plenty to talk about as well, in between storms that passed through the community.
Yes.
But we had a lot of fun activity and some interesting things to share with you in between those storms. And the first one was the Lake Eoin Classic. This is an event that goes on each and every year. I believe it's been 11 years that the Neepawa Wildlife Association has been putting this event on. Had a chance to go down there on Saturday, March the 2nd, just for a little while. And as well, NACTV was down there. And in fact, it was Rain Pryor's picture that we got on the front page of this week's edition of the newspaper. Just felt like I've got a few pictures that I took there. Just didn't like it. It wasn't the right angle, wasn't right perspective. Rain came through with a really nice picture of one of the fishermen, Al Picard of Neepawa, who did pretty well for himself and caught a fair-sized fish. Although it wasn't even one of the top 5 fish out there, Ken.
I noticed that.
Yep.
Yeah, 76 centimeters, and it still wasn't the winner. And of course, all catch and release. So all those big fellas went back in to make more jackfish and northern pike, which are a great fighting fish. And when you do get to keep one of their certain size, they're pretty darn good eating too. In the wintertime. Summertime, they say not so much.
Yeah. Oh, it was a great event. It was held over at Lake Eoin, and it was very well participated in terms of that. I believe there's about 128, I think. Let me just refresh my memory here. 139 people that were able to participate in this year's Classic, as well as 22 youth anglers. It's great to see the new generations getting involved in the sport and seeing the merits of something like that. So it was great, and everybody seemed to be having a lot of fun out there. I was only out there for about a half hour there, got a few pictures, got a few shots in. It seemed like every few minutes somebody was coming up to the trucks and the judges and getting their fish measured and all that. So it was really well put together. Couldn't have asked for better weather. It was just before the very first storm came rolling into Neepawa and the surrounding region. So everybody was still in a pretty good mood. So.
Yeah. No, you don't want to be out on that lake last night, that's for sure, with the big blizzard that came through, the second blizzard that came through.
Oh yes, most definitely. But again, it was a fun time. If you want to find out a little bit more information on who won and some of the pictures from the festivities, you can find that on page 1. This week's edition of the Banner Press carries over onto page 2 as well. Hopefully you'll take a moment and check it out and see for yourselves. In terms of some other information going on here, we have a special feature that was a part of this week's paper. It seems like we're doing a lot of those as we shift gears in towards the spring. And of course the melt, although the melt in Neepawa is going to be a little more hectic with all that extra snow we've had the last few days. But right now, we've got Pharmacy Awareness Month that we're celebrating. So we have a special page feature in this week's edition of the Banner Press, where you can learn a little bit more about some of your local pharmacies in our area, as well as some information that we got from one of our services, Metro Creative. They shared a little bit of details on when it comes to multiple types of prescriptions that you have to take. I mean, some of the things you should do in order to safely medicate when you have to deal with multiple medications. And let's be honest, I know I'm getting up in there. We're all getting to that age where we do need maybe some multiple medications to keep ourselves running, as it were. So it's very important to know the risks and to sort of plan accordingly when it comes to your better health.
Yeah, and something I've personally found too is, and it's emphasized in this article, you do need to know which medications do what. And you get an explanation sheet, but it's a lot, I have to admit, this quite a bit faster to type in the name into the internet, into Google, and it'll give you name the drug and put side effects, for example. And some people are affected differently. My wife and I are both on she was on a particular drug, and it affected her badly. She couldn't even handle it, but it doesn't bother me. So it affect these some of the medications, well and good as they all are, they can affect you differently. So, good page to read here in the Banner, and good to check out what you're on for medication and figure it out.
And don't forget, you can find that in this week's edition of the Neepawa Banner Press on page 11. It's a huge 24-page paper this week, jam-packed with a whole heck of a lot of information for you. So you can find this one on page 11. Going to give a shout out, actually, while we got a moment, to some of the sponsors, because special features like this can't happen unless we have people in the community and businesses in the community step up and help to spotlight these types of items. So big shout out to Harris Pharmacy right here in Neepawa. Very appreciative of their consistent and continued support. Very much going to be looking forward to following up on that story when they move into their new location. You've probably, if you're a consistent reader of the Banner and Press, you know some of the details behind that. So we're very much looking forward to being able to cover that in the future as well. Also, a Rice-Check Pharmacy based out of McCreary. They are always a very consistent sponsor and supporter of pharmacy awareness. To go along with that, St. Rose Super Thrifty Pharmacy. Obviously, St. Rose Super Thrifty out in St. Rose. So we appreciate you also. And last but not least, Neepawa Pharmacy, who also are a supporter of pharmacy awareness and are also a part of this week's paper in terms of some very interesting and breaking news. Now, if you look on page 11, you'll see pharmacy awareness. But if you flip pages onto page 12, you're going to see a story specifically about Neepawa Pharmacy. And Ken, some huge news coming out of Neepawa and indirectly as well coming out of Brandon when it comes to the future of that pharmacy.
Yeah, like Super Thrifty Drugs has started out small, and it's they've got several partners now and several stores, Brandon and Rivers, and as noted here, St. Rose. But now, in conjunction with Heather Sake, who is a long-term druggist, pharmacist at Harris Pharmacy, is going out on her own now and buying Neepawa Pharmacy, and Heather is going to be opening at the end of the month there with some renovations, and it'll be opening under the Super Thrifty brand. And we're planning to do a follow-up with the current owner and longtime owner of Neepawa Pharmacy, Nelson Jackson, who is going to move off into, I think, a much anticipated and much deserved retirement, because he's put in a lot of hours there, and often he's worked by himself. And so I think he'll be happy to see the day come, and so we're planning to do a follow-up interview with Nelson on that. But Neepawa Pharmacy is a long time. Well, both the pharmacies have been in Neepawa here for a lot of generations under various names. But so people who used to come to Neepawa back quite a few years ago would remember Hargraves Pharmacy. There were Hargraves and Harris's, and Hargraves became Neepawa Pharmacy.
Most definitely. Congratulations to Nelson on a much-deserved upcoming retirement. And, of course, congratulations to Heather as well, who will be taking over, working in partnership with Super Thrifty, who are based out of Brandon. Super Thrifty, of course, is one of the few remaining independent pharmacy sort of partnerships, consortiums, organizations, whatever term you'd like to use, in all of Canada. It's a partnership of individuals that came together and created this opportunity, and it's throughout Manitoba as well. Not only in the areas we talked about, but even out to Selkirk. They've got one. I didn't even realize that Super Thrifty is out in Selkirk as well right now. So they're branched out, they're far and wide, and they are now going to be coming to Neepawa. So it's a good thing for our older community. Not even just our older community, just families in general, to be able to have these types of options where you're going to have a viable business, a thriving business such as Super Thrifty Drug Mart Neepawa, and an expanding business as well in terms of Harris Pharmacy. So it's good that a community such as ours is able to afford and to be able to support multiple businesses in that genre.
Yeah, no, it's good. There's been 2 pharmacies here in Neepawa. I think one time there may have even been 3. Many years ago, but been 2 pharmacies in Neepawa for a long time. So.
Yeah. If you want to find out a little bit more information, I had a chance to speak with Heather about what's going to be going forward and some of the details behind it. Once again, you can find that story. It is on page 12 of this week's edition of the Banner and Press. And don't forget, if you're unable to get a physical copy, if you're not in Neepawa or the surrounding communities, always remember that a version of the newspaper goes up online each and every Friday at around 9 a.m. Central Time, and you can find that on mywestman.ca. If you don't want to go onto our direct website, if you follow us on Facebook, we do put a link to it on Facebook, and that'll take you directly to our version of the newspaper. So if you're not able to get a physical copy of it, and we hope you're able to, you'll be able to still see it and still find it online. All right, let's shift over a little bit. Pharmacy science. So this segues nicely into the science fair, which recently occurred. Casper Warehan was able to go down there and get a bunch of pictures from the Neepawa Middle School Science Fair. And from the sounds of it, it was a pretty big sort of mix of sort of interesting concepts and ideas this year.
Yeah, and they were pretty excited to have it. It's the first one they've had since 2019 with all the disruptions we went through. But it was a big one. There's a lot of young people there with their displays, and Casper was very impressed. I didn't get down to see it, but Casper was there and brought back some pictures. We got names of the students that are in the pictures, and the judges were school staff and high school students, and they had a great time. And of course, the winners, I believe, from this science fair will have a chance to move on to a regional science fair if they wish to go. So that's always exciting too.
That's right. All right, now you can find that on page 8 of this week's paper. If you move your eyes over onto page 9, you're going to find our next story that we're going to be talking about right here on the Story Behind the Stories. This was one that was brought in. I don't usually do these types of stories because I don't want to take sides. And hopefully when you read it, you know I don't take sides in this one either. But there's an individual, a Neepawa driver, who is feeling the frustration when it comes to dealing with auto insurance and auto insurers. And I'm sure we've all felt it in one way or another. Maybe not with auto insurance. Maybe it is with auto insurance. But in some term or another, we felt that hurry up and wait atmosphere, that runaround we seem to get. And this is a story that I'm sharing with you. It was Henry Reimer of Neepawa, who's just not feeling very appreciated and just not feeling very heard when it comes to Manitoba public insurance.
Well, there's a greater context here, and I'm afraid that MPI has got lots of problems. If you were to talk to any of the insurance brokers, I think that none of them are happy, and that's been made very public with the way AutoPack is dealing with things. But in this case, it was a fairly simple and common accident. Hit a deer swung around, almost went through the door panel of the car. There's blood on the car. There's fur on the car. There's a dead deer in the ditch, and they aren't, not that they're going to come out and see the dead deer, but they haven't even made it at the point that we wrote this, that Eoin wrote this article, they haven't even been out to see Mr. Reimer to do a face-to-face visit with him. They're saying over the phone, well, we're not sure it's the deer. It looks like a pretty big hole for a deer. Well, a deer are about 250 pounds or 300 pounds. And if you hit it at any speed at all, they're going to make a big hole. And they do. They take the front ends right off of vehicles. In this case, the damage is largely to the side of the vehicle. And they're not coming across here. They're saying, well, we're not sure it's deer, and so there's an argument about the deductible and all this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, it's a leased truck that he can't drive, but he has to make the lease payments on it and the insurance payments. And taking the whole context there, you know, AutoPack has been under some leadership changes, board changes. They've spent millions of dollars on a computer system that does not work. And insurance claims are taking a long time. But new licenses, I'm finding, especially for commercial licenses, are taking 6 months. Well, a person doesn't want to have their equipment sitting for 6 months waiting for a license so you can put it on the road to start making some money with a commercial truck.
That's right. And again, Henry came to us with this story. I sat down, I spoke with Henry in and around this time a week ago. He shared some of the details with me, as well as one or two other things that I didn't actually end up putting in the story. And I said to Henry quite clearly, Henry, you know, this is, you're okay with putting a public spotlight on this? I don't want to sort of cause any issues or create a tension in the situation already. He said, no. We've gone through every single channel. We've done everything we believe we were supposed to do in terms of getting this done. And it's nothing but hurry up and wait. This is an accident that occurred November 15th of 2023. And it's still the waiting game that he's dealing with. So he's tried everything. So he said, you know what? I got to try something else. Maybe if I make this a little more public, maybe if I make this a little more loud, maybe some action will happen. Who knows? We do appreciate that, and we don't try to take sides in terms of these types of stories. So read it, make up your own opinions for yourself, and if you've had any sort of similar incidents or occurrences, we'd always love to be able to hear from you. If you want to send us a letter, thumbs up, thumbs down, we're not going to do a story each and every week about some of the bad circumstances that we've all dealt with insurance. That would make for a pretty boring paper after a couple months of that. But again, we do want to hear from you if there's something you can sort of add to the conversation, because that's what this is about, and that's what we hope a newspaper is about creating or maybe adding to the conversation of a community. So definitely, if you want to find out a little bit more, you can find it in this week's newspaper.
Hopefully when this gets resolved, we'll be able to report to you about the resolution, but it's certainly coming up 4 months.
Yep.
It's 3.5 months now past.
And I got to admit, I never I don't know the process anymore, because I actually sat down after I spoke with Henry on this and I did some thinking. And not to brag at all, but the last time I ever had any type of auto vehicle accident of any time, I think, was 1995. That's the last time I can think I've had to have any dealings with MPI or AutoPack, whatever you want to call it there, in which I had to. And I was living in Brandon at the time. I was rear-ended. My truck at the time got rear-ended over on 18th there. So I brought it in. I called them up on a landline as well. One of those back in the day. Yeah. They said, okay, we got an appointment set for, it had happened on Monday. We got an appointment. We can do it on Thursday or Friday. I said, Thursday works for me. All right, bring it down. I brought it down, brought all my information in. They said, okay, bring it round the back, because it was the AutoPack claims building. It used to be on First Street. I don't even know what's in that building anymore. Maybe it still is an AutoPack. I don't know. But I went in, talked to him, then drove around. Guy looked at it with his clipboard. You always got to have the clipboard. That makes it official. So, and he's marked down a couple things. Yep. Okay, all right, here's your claim. And I was able to get it repaired within 2 weeks. I was able to get it into a shop and get it looked after and get it taken care of.
That ain't happening. That ain't happening anymore, partly because the shops are so busy, but partly because the AutoPack seems to be pretty foot dragging on this thing, and it's very frustrating.
So again, I'm trying to relate to it, but at the same time, my last sort of interactions with it were much different than what Henry and maybe what you've had to deal with. So if you had a similar interaction or a different interaction, we'd love to hear from you. All right, let's go over to a couple other items before we get done for the day. This is a story we can talk about. The Neepawa Titans Cash Lottery is on the go right now. For those of you that are unfamiliar, the Cash Lottery is a big revenue generator opportunity for the Neepawa Titans. They are not-for-profit, non-profit organization, so anything they're able to bring in goes directly back into the organization and the operation of the Junior A hockey team. So this year's is underway right now, and we had a chance to speak with Jamie Dembo about it and how it's going. Right, Ken?
Oh yeah, we got a story there and a picture of Jamie, and he's pointing to his logo on his chest there, and got the form and everything there. And people can get the lottery tickets. They can go online through the Titans Facebook or on website. Also here at the Neepawa Banner office, that can buy them, and their sales are going pretty well. And hopefully it can be either sold out or get close to a sellout. It is a huge fundraiser for the hockey club, and much needed. Anybody who reads much about sports at all realizes that a lot of junior level hockey teams in Canada, junior A level, are struggling, and it's no different here in Neepawa. There's times when the cash gets pretty short, but the teams all keep playing, and they keep the kids on the ice, and they keep the arenas occupied, and rent ice and all the rest of it. The hockey team, there's some stats in there that I think you'll find pretty interesting about how much economic activity comes out of an enterprise like a junior A hockey team. And if you take that out of a community, well, that's economic activity that you're not going to get back. So,
Yeah, even if you're not a fan of junior A hockey, if you're not a fan of the team in particular or hockey in general, still hopefully you're a fan of getting free money in a way.
Yeah.
I don't even remember off the top of my head. What is the grand prize on that?
20,000.
20,000. Who couldn't do with 20,000 right now? And I think they limited it to only 800.
800 tickets, and at 20,000, there's 5 prizes of 1,000, and on the side there's a 50-50 that usually runs $6,000-$7,000 pot.
Yeah. And again, if you're interested, hopefully you'll get involved. I think my family's bought tickets a couple times. I got to admit, I've never bought a ticket to the Titans lottery.
I have the forums. I can fix you up on.
And again, that's not anything against the team. I don't gamble. I don't gamble in any way, shape, or form. I see no use, no value to it. On a personal level, and that even comes down to playing the lottery. I've never played the lottery. I have no use for it. I know people who've played lottery since they were 18 years old, and they're the same age as me right now, and they've never won. And just think where all that money could have gone, all that good use you could have done with that.
Yeah,
Having said that, though, you hit on that 20,000. That makes up for the 30 some odd years. That really does make up for it pretty darn quickly.
I think most people regard these lottery tickets, and there's another one coming up we'll be writing about soon, and that's the medical clinic lottery.
Yeah.
And most people consider it a donation to the cause type of thing.
Yeah.
And if they win, okay. If their friend wins, that's fun too. And but yeah, there's a reason they run lotteries. It's not that the prize winners make money. It's the people running the lotteries make the money.
But again, this is a great example, as Ken said, whether it comes to the medical clinic, whether it comes to the Neepawa Titans. Look at it as this way. You are supporting a local organization, and that is always something wonderful. And if you get a couple dollars back out of it, all the better. So you can find out a little bit more in this week's paper. Speaking of the hockey team, here's another reason why you should be supporting them in this way or in any way possible. Ken Pearson, the general manager and the head coach for the Neepawa Titans, has just reached a very historic milestone, achieving his 600th Manitoba Junior Hockey League win as a head coach. That's combining his time here with Neepawa as well as his time with the Winkler Flyers and the Winnipeg South Blues. And he's actually got more Junior A wins because, this doesn't count his time in the Saskatchewan League or in the Alberta League. He's sort of hit the trail and been out and about there, and he's in such exclusive company. Only 4 coaches now have ever hit 600 career wins in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. Ken Pearson is only one of 4 individuals in the history of the MJHL to ever achieve this mark. So that is something very significant, very special, and something that very much should be celebrated.
Yeah, he's I just find that here there's Doug Stokes, Blake Spiller, and Don McGilvery are the other 3, and McGilvery coached here at one time. In fact, he coached with Kenny here in Kenny's early part of his career.
Yeah, we do talk. I spoke with Ken a little bit about his early days, about the significance of those 3 other coaches, where he's coached with them, he's coached against them, and what he's been able to take from that, and what he hopes to see going on to 601 and hopefully beyond. So you can find that story. It's on page 14 of this week's edition, the first sports page of an expanded sports section we got this week. We had to go 4 whole pages for the sports. There was so much going on. We talked a little bit about the Neepawa Titans playoff run right now. They're currently 3 points ahead of Wayway-Sakapo for the 4th and final spot in the MJHL's West Division postseason. Still games in hand. There's still an opportunity for them to fall in, fall out, whatever you want to call it. So hopefully they're going to be able to do this last little run and keep a spot in the playoffs. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah. No, there's lots of sports coverage there. The Titans, the Tigers are still going too, right?
That's right. They are in their semifinal for the high school, as well as we talk a little bit about the figure skating club, Gladstone Lakers winning their series against Minnedosa in the Tiger Hills Hockey League, And we're very appreciative. Neepawa Darts forwarded us a picture and some information from their recent participation in the provincials. So wonderful to be able to share all those details, as well as a couple curling bonspiels, one for Neepawa, one for Westburn, that were emailed to us, and the information on the winners was sent to us as well. So a whole array. It's not just hockey, it's all the array as well. So very appreciative of that. So hopefully you'll take a few minutes and sort of see it for yourself. Well, we do got a few minutes left, Ken. Let's take this time, talk a little bit about your column this week. Just share some of the details on that, and your perspective on where you think we are headed right now. So fill us in on that details.
When it comes to transportation and electric cars and all that sort of thing, I'll be the first to say that I think that the way of the future will have a heavy electric component. I'll be also the first to say, among the first to say, that it's going too far, too fast, because it's been falsely driven. You get a $5,000 subsidy from the federal government if you buy an electric car. I said to Eoin just before we got on the show here, my wife and I bought a little wee Spark car, great for running around town, maybe a trip to Brandon, whatever. Great little car. We didn't get a subsidy. It burns about half the gas that the vans or the SUVs burn. We contributed to the theoretical improvement of the environment by burning less gas for quite a few of our miles. No subsidy. Electric get a subsidy. You go to buy a new battery and they do wear out. $5,000 to $20,000 for a battery.
From what I've heard, in and around 100,000 miles
Yeah.
is where they burn out.
Yeah.
On average.
Yeah, and I have a grandson-in-law who's in the towing business. He's a CAA driver as well, and they're always picking up electric cars that just ran out of gas, ran out of electricity in the middle of nowhere, and so you tow them in. Well, then what? If you tow a car to a gas-powered car to a gas station, 10, 15 minutes later, you're up and ready to go again. Not so easy, not so fast. 2 hours, 5 hours, 12 hours, depending on the charger you're hooked up to.
And the conditions of the weather.
I think they're downright bloody dangerous because the cars, never mind the fires, what they're having and stuff like that, and how heavy they are, but you get caught, nobody I have heard of yet boasts about going from Winnipeg to Brandon and back on a single charge. They don't risk it. Some of them charge up twice, but they will go to Brandon, charge up, do their thing, go back to Winnipeg. If you go back to Winnipeg on a night like last night and get caught on the side of the road, you're bloody freeze to death because you've got no heat and you've got no power to go anywhere.
Well, it's one of those things of you're not against it per se, but it needs to be. There needs to be a little more time and effort and infrastructure put into it to be able to make it work well in Canada.
Well, I'm going to use a word that I shouldn't use on TV, and I'll apologize, especially if you're offended by it. But when it comes to government today, it doesn't matter whether it's provincial or federal. It doesn't matter whether it's the American government or European governments. There's a lot of bullshit. I'm sorry. And you may as well call it what it is, because they grab onto an idea and think this is a wonderful idea, and it might be a wonderful idea, but it's not a wonderful idea yet.
Well, we're going to have to cut you off there. We are running out of time. That's why you got to pick up a copy of the Neepawa Banner Press and see it for yourselves. Don't forget, if you have any sort of ideas or suggestions for us, you can always get in touch with us at news@neepawabanner.com or by the phone at 476-3401. Always appreciate a call or a suggestion. So once again, thank you very much, Ken. Always appreciate you taking a little bit of time for us.
Good to be here.
And thank you for doing the same. We always appreciate it. And tune in once again next week for the story behind the stories.